Hi, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner.
And our dog, Betty White.
Your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably. But it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure. Yada, yada, yada. After owning our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real-life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures podcast.
Hi, friends. We are back with episode 114 of the Arner Adventures podcast. This episode is really difficult, not going to lie.
We usually start out the episodes letting you know that our Betty White is here with us. Usually she's snoring, playing with a toy, rolling around. Unfortunately, we're recording this podcast without her.
If you're in the Arner Adventures community or a follower on social media, you probably already know that Betty White passed away on February 12th. She was diagnosed with lung cancer back in August, and we feel very fortunate to have had so many loving moments since that diagnosis. We called these wonderful events with her rainbow adventures, sort of a bucket list of wonderful things for her, like breakfast in bed and McDonald's hamburgers, pup cream every day, beach trips, road trips, just so many adventures. But still, her passing is jarring. It still seems very shocking, and I think we're still in a bit of shock.
Well, yeah, we are. As you look around, and I think a lot of people have probably experienced this. You get distracted for a while, and you're doing your regular thing, and then things happen. And like last night, I was making popcorn, and I dropped some on the floor, and I was ready to, here's your popcorn, Betty. And then I thought, she's not here, because that would be a favorite thing of hers, to eat popcorn off the floor.
Yeah.
And not that I make a habit of popcorn on the floor, but it popped out of the thing that I was popping.
Yeah.
But, we've never missed a week on this podcast. So during the week of her passing, we replayed her episode when she was a guest, episode 33. We'll link it in the show notes. We just couldn't get it together to record anything. We pushed out a pre-recorded episode on gaslighting, and with nothing else queued up, we just wanted to take this episode, to talk to you all about how we're maneuvering through.
That's right. Arner Adventures, in case you don't know, was born when we started our blog, arneradventures.com, after we had lost 3 of our fur babies. The latter being our pup Pharrell. And the blog served as sort of a therapeutic journal after Pharrell's passing. So we would, write about the challenges of course, going through this grief journey. We made our big lifestyle change of, selling our house, our business, everything, moving to the coast with Betty. And we sort of founded unintentionally this community, bonding with other people who had gone through a similar loss. Because as you know, if you are relating to us at all, you know that a lot of people don't get it. And so it was so challenging. And, I think since then, since Pharrell passed, knowing that this day would come, I have just always dreaded it. I knew it was coming. I knew the pain was going to come again, and I've always dreaded it. And it's just, there's just no preparation, even if you know it's coming.
Oh, no, you can't prepare. There's a lot of things you can't prepare for, and that is definitely a biggie right there. I know we've always, we've cohabitated, as they say, since 2003, and we've always had pets in the house. And before it was just Betty, which has been that way for about 6 or 7 years. It was, we had a couple cats and Pharrell, and then we had Betty, Pharrell, and 1 cat. So then it was just Betty for the last few years, which was great. And we knew actually Betty was she was a solo act. She needed to be the top dog, as they
She
say.
did. I remember
And,
when Pharrell passed away, she did not mourn, and I was not prepared for that. I was like, why is she not sad at all? Oh,
Yeah.
because it was like, this is my time, bitches. Like,
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
the top dog. I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
get everything I want, and she did.
Yeah. And she was so young and spry then. That was just a couple of years ago. And boy, did that time fly. And of course,
Yeah.
you know, the life cycle of a pet is a lot shorter than ours. And then all of a sudden, she was older and had problems. And that's where we get to where we are right now. You know,
And like you said, it's the first time in 20 years that we've not had a pet in the home. We've never been alone as a couple,
no,
except for when we traveled. If we traveled without her. And I think, this episode, we wanted to definitely talk about it. And we wanted to maybe, share how we're supporting each other in this pain instead of being primary caretakers for another being. We're really helping to take care of each other.
Oh yeah, we are, and it's just a few days in, so there's you're still feeling it out.
Yeah.
It's day to day, especially on a weekend like this.
Mhm.
This is a Sunday, so this is the first weekend without Betty here, so it's
Yeah.
no distractions of regular work, Monday through Friday work, and it's tough.
I think one of the things that we'll definitely talk about is the fact that, we're dinks. We've talked about that before. It's just such a funny word, DINK, but it's the double income, no kids club.
That's why I was waiting for you to say it.
Okay.
It just won't sound right coming from me.
I think part of being in the Dink Club, and if you enjoy animals like we do, is we do have the joy of rescuing animals and providing them a loving home. And as we're sort of reflecting on, I don't know, I don't want to say positive, I guess like a silver lining part of all of this, it's like, I think because we are dinks, a dink couple, we are able to provide opportunities for rescues that I know a lot of people couldn't. I mean, our pets have always been our kids. And I know, especially with Betty, because she had such a, she was a bully breed and all that. And so there were all these biases against her, but having the start that she did, no one would have given Betty White the opportunities that we did. I know that they wouldn't have. It was a struggle in the beginning. She resource hoarded. She thought that she was going to starve. She thought that, her food or toys or water, everything was going to be taken away from her. So we had a lot of challenges in the beginning, but it paid off. And I'm so glad that we spent that time with her. But that is an advantage to us being a dink couple.
Oh, most definitely. And it's something, it's something you really can appreciate at a moment like this, that, hey, when you come around to trying to search for the good, you think, well, it's really neat that we could do that for her. We were the Alan Ludden to her Betty White. Is that how you say his name?
Alan Ludden.
Alan Ludden.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
To her Betty White. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked about here before the kitty cartel. Beaufort is sort of known for its I don't know if it's known, but the town does have a lot of stray cats on the island. The story goes that because this used to be called like Fish Town, used to be a fish, I don't know, it was like a warehouse or fish, what do they call them? Processing thing that the cats flock to the island. And because of that, there's these sort of pockets of kitty groups. And so we have the one that has maneuvered to our backyard, and they currently are bringing a bit of relief to the quiet. I mean, it's I've described it to some people who've just checked in with us that our home has a deafening silence, and it's just hard to manage.
It is. It's really different. Yeah, it's quite an adjustment. But like you were saying with the cats, it's just a step outside the door, and they've provided us a lot of entertainment, and And they're really friendly cats. We have one on the front porch too that's not part of the cartel. Maybe good for him that
Yeah.
he's not. He's a different breed, but
they're all we've talked about this before, but if you don't know, you're like, oh my God, these are some weird cat people. They were part of the, what do you call it? With the group where they trap them and they spay and neuter release. Well, anyway, they're all spayed and neutered. And they have their ear clipped so that's how you know. So we are not contributing to the population of stray cats. They're just sort of a little group. We call them the kitty cartel. And we have a little barn out back that we have heat lamps in and hay and all of that. So that has been nice, I guess, to still have that caretaking ability to be able to spend it on them in the midst of the sadness,
Yeah, I don't know if this sounds right. A nice distraction. Not that they're a distraction, but a good distraction.
Yeah.
I guess the way to say that.
Yeah.
And they are entertaining, and they're all really sweet. So that's been a relief, to have them around.
I don't like the at leasts or I was telling my mom recently that no one can say anything right to us right now. Like it's not I know people mean well, but it just seems like I know me, I'm just so sensitive to anything people say. And if someone says, well, at least she's not in pain anymore, like I hate that. Like, or she's in a better place. Well, I don't know. Like I'm struggling with that. Is she? Like is a better place somewhere other than with us? I mean, I don't know. So just to say that nothing is really, no one, especially we had a grief episode, on this before and with Tom Rose and just how it is really difficult to say and do the right things for someone who is struggling with grief. And I know just kind of going through, if you're listening to this and you're a pet parent suffering with this, which is why we're talking about it. We always do this on our podcast, is talk about the real shit that is a struggle. And the one thing I will say, Pharrell, I thought that loss was going to kill me. I thought I would not make it through that. And I did. And the catalyst of that was starting our new life. And of course, Arner Adventures. And I think because of going through that, I was able, and I tell myself every day that I will survive it. Like, I know it's going to be hard. And I know that there's so many challenges that are repeating, which we're going to go into that in a minute. But I know that I survived it. So if this is your first time dealing with this, I'll just say that I hope this episode does help you and that you know that you can survive it. And I think the other thing is, when I think about if I wasn't here, I wouldn't have been able to help you give Betty a great life. And I wouldn't be here for one day when we decide that we want to rescue again and bring another rescue into our home. I wouldn't be here for that. So, I think that, which leads me into therapy. Therapy has been a wonderful tool for both of us. Mm-hmm. And, the role of therapy and navigating through challenges and grief is, I think, paramount when you find the right therapist. I've talked before too about how I have definitely had some not so great experiences with therapists who don't get the pet loss situation. So I would just encourage you can get on mentalhealthmatch.com. It's completely free. You can start reading through and messaging therapists to see if they are someone who specializes in that. And I found someone who definitely gets it. And she has been working with me for the anticipatory grief process when she was diagnosed, and then now. And so I would highly encourage you to get into therapy if you can. And if you want some free resources, just send us a message and we can definitely give you some of those too.
Nicely said. Yeah, that's there's with all challenges, there's a lot of opportunity for growth and Yeah, I guess it's important to keep a growth mindset in all, areas of life. And boy, does that help in
Yeah.
in this area. A challenge that we should bring up that many pet parents will understand, those who feel that their pets are their children, is the lack of understanding. A lot of people don't get it when you can't function due to the grief of missing your pet. So there's just a couple different schools of thought there, I guess. But
You're fortunate in that you didn't have problems with like work when you were like, I need to be out for this. They completely understood.
they
Right?
did, yeah. We were up all night that first night, and there was no way I could go the next day, and then of course it was out another day, and that gave us time to regroup.
Yeah.
And kind of
and yeah, there have been many people who do understand it. And I think the more that it's talked about, just like mental health, the more understanding there is surrounding the topic, especially as pet parents.
Yeah.
But what really sucks, and I don't want to harp on it too much because I really want this to be positive and helpful, but I do want people to know, because it's just real, is that in addition to the sadness and the grief process, it sucks so bad when you have people in your life who don't get it. And not only do they not get it, but when they voice it, like, it's just a dog, or, you didn't birth that baby. How can you be so sad? Shit like that. It's like, how absolutely, how absolutely inconsiderate can you be to even say it? And I can't go on enough about that. Just that no matter where you are, there are going to be people who don't understand it. I was messaging someone who I work with in a sort of vendor sense this week. I don't even know if I told you this.
I don't think so.
And he messaged needing some information from me to be able to finish out a project. And I said, oh, sorry, I haven't gotten back to you. Betty White passed away. And he knew that Betty had been suffering with cancer, battling cancer.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so when do you think that you'll be able to get me blah, blah, blah? And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, our world is torn apart. How do you, I don't know. So you're going to run into people who don't get it. And I'll tell you this go round, I am trying to really look at hard things as a gift. And I did do that later with Pharrell. Like, I do feel like Pharrell gave us the gift of being able to know what's important in life, and gave me the gift to say no, and to not be the yes person, and not to be involved in every single thing I'm asked to do. I just felt like that was the gift he gave me. And with this, it's like our virtual assistant, Cindy, said, how she likes to look at things in cycles, and that this is a cycle. And I really want to, this may sound cheesy, but I really want to look at this cycle as a new way of looking at things. And maybe the way that Betty did.
Yeah.
That, there were people who feared her because she's, being a bully breed, or, there were people who we no longer have in our life because they made comments that, Betty and other rescues aren't safe around pets, which is completely false. And all those falsities, did Betty dwell and sit angry in those things? No, she didn't allow them to steal her joy. She just walked away. And I feel like I'm the queen of cutting people off, but I don't want to do that. I want to be more like, I'm going to walk away, and it's no hard feelings. It's just, you're not the right person in my life. And I'm going to try really hard not to be angry about people I'm walking away from. And I don't want to welcome people into my life who aren't bringing joy. And, that's what Betty would do, I think.
Yeah. We like-minded people. Everybody does. And it's you do want those people that are understanding. Luckily for me, I've most people I've been around, and I think more people than none have pets that live in the home, and you know, the comment that you hear a lot is that's tougher than losing a
human.
human, and it is.
It
And
is.
so,
I'm going to tell you, losing your child, because they were our children,
mm-hmm.
it just rips your heart apart. It's terrible. So, yeah, you do hear that too. Like,
Yeah.
it's the worst loss I've ever been through. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and luckily I've been able to hear a lot of that, as opposed to I haven't really heard anything I felt was negative, and I've heard
in
a lot
your
of,
light, that there were people in mine who did.
oh yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like, I'm real quick to jump at somebody, and they sometimes don't have a problem saying to me. I don't know if I was inviting the negative. I don't know. You know what? Stuff to work out in therapy. Who knows? But so, you know what? We want to thank you all who have sent us condolences, who have asked how Betty is ever since you knew about her diagnosis, shared your own stories with us, sticking through this episode while we dump our feelings out. And, you know, we did talk about, do we even do this episode about this? And we really thought, you know, when you're going through this, you're searching for something to show that you're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing and the worst part in grief is feeling so alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to help support each other. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't get it. I can't believe they did a whole episode about, you know what, if you're listening to this, you probably aren't even thinking that because you're not our people. But if you are, how about try not to be so judgmental about what people are going through? I've said this in the past. I'll say it again. If you don't get it, if you cannot understand why someone feels sad or is grieving, be grateful that you don't get it and just be kind. If you have nothing nice to say, just show some grace and empathy. You know, it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this too, that we put Betty's obituary in our local newspaper.
Yeah.
And we did it with Pharrell too when he passed away. And really that helped build our community for Arner Adventures because it went viral.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with Betty's. What I do know is that we sent the obituary and we got notification yesterday that it was in there. And so I ran to get a newspaper and it covers up like a fourth of the page.
Yeah.
So there was some joy in that, just knowing that this larger than life girl has this larger than life obituary on this page that just stands out and shines. And
yeah, that was a big moment yesterday to see that. That was a good feeling.
Yeah.
And after almost a week that well, and there's a few laughs yesterday. No, that's a roller coaster.
Yeah, I think the further we get away from the actual ending and the not so great part of that, or her sickness, I think that the more happy memories will come up more. I feel like it happens that way with Pharrell and Kiko and Wilson. Like I think about the fun, joyous things now more than the endings. You know.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, you know, with time, you kind of sort through the bad stuff.
Although time does not heal. People say that, and it does not heal. It just makes it where your thoughts go more towards positive.
Yeah.
I read recently, Billy Bob Thornton lost his brother, I guess, in recent years. And it was, you know, one of the most difficult things he's ever been through. And he said that when people would say to him, time heals, or, hey, you know, you'll get through this or whatever, he said, you know what, it doesn't. And it doesn't get better. He's like, you learn to cope with your existence with the pain. And I know that sounds so like negative, but what it did for me, and that was before Betty passed away, but what it did for me was go, oh my God, yeah, like he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets that the pain is always there.
Uh-huh.
But you learn to adapt and to cope with your existence of having that. And I think that I wouldn't want to live through this life without having experienced them in it, all of them,
Mm-hmm.
all of our rescue babies in it. So with that comes pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna experience it again and again and again, and hopefully we live a long life where we can help rescue even more.
Yeah. Your coping toolbox just gets a little bit bigger. You get more tools to cope. But I see where you're going with that. That it's always, it doesn't really heal so much. It's always there. That pain, the memories, and the pain of losing. Yeah. But you have better coping mechanisms that you might have had before you experienced all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing.
I will say too that as we wrap this up, Arner Adventures, everything. It's like, I mean, I don't know if you say branding, but our branding, even the intro to this podcast, everything includes Betty. Yep. And so I don't know, how there's a lot of uncertainty with how it evolves without Betty White, but this is an adventure. We always say the challenges are adventures. And, like you said, there's growth through challenges, and this adventure we'll maneuver through and we'll figure it out as we go. Yeah.
For now, we're going to embrace the messiness of this life's adventures and do our best to maneuver this adventure as we do the rest of them.
If this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who would benefit from anything we talked about today, or any episode, our guests, or anything, please share it with a friend. It's a great way of supporting the podcast and us, and we really appreciate it.
Another way of supporting the pod is by leaving us a 5-star review rating on the platform you're listening to us on. Oh, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button because that also supports us. We would love that.
You can always find us, links we refer to during the show, and any of the podcast sponsors at arneradventures.com or linked here in these show notes. And until next time, enjoy that journey you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Adios.
Arrivederci.
Au revoir.
Adios.
Sayonara.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Dos vidaniana.